Show. It's a streaming super special. From the mix up at Marvel TV to the new Netflix premium pricing, we're talking TV. All that, plus this week's headline roundup and our pop culture recommendations of the week. It's time for Nerd It Here Weekly. Bruno, do the thing. Welcome to Nerd It Here Weekly. I'm Rowley Tombstone, along with Freddie, my neighbor on Elm Street, and that dark spirit who keeps giving Charlie Brown rocks at trick-or-treat houses, Jack-O-Lantern, Transylvania. How you guys doing?
Doing all right, man.
Boo no menaces on the ones and twos, of course. Sorry, didn't mean to not shout out Bruno's Halloween name.
It's important. It's frankly forward to the most about Halloween now that I can't get the candy.
These the names, the spooky names.
Yeah. The spooky vibes.
Well, it's a good new tradition that we have established here, and I'm excited to find out what our names will be next year, because of course they won't be allowed to be the same. That's part of it, definitely. But yeah, how you guys been? What you been up to? Any great new premium podcasts you've subscribed to lately?
No, not. I mean, I've been a subscriber to our premium podcast for a while.
I live a
that's
premium
not new.
podcast.
Yeah. So yeah, we just want to take a minute. We actually have something we want to dig into to plug. So we have to do the obligatory. Remember, for $5 a month, skip one latte and you get 4 extra podcast episodes. Us digging deeper into the stuff that we love, and also helps us pay the bills, which is great, and we really appreciate it. So thank you for those of you who are already subscribed, and for those of you who haven't, maybe check it out. Maybe hop in there. We'll get you a coupon code soon. Let's figure something out. Bruno, make a note to bug me about getting a coupon code for the next episode. We want to talk about this YouTube video that we just put up. We're doing a playthrough of Doki Doki Literature Club. I'm going to let Jack talk about it because he's more he's more aware of what's happening than we are, because it's sort of a blind playthrough for Fred and I is kind of the point of it. But yeah, so Jack, why don't you speak a little bit?
Yeah, we're playing through. If you haven't heard of the game before, it is a a very interesting game.
It was a slow burn.
A very slow burn. It's a visual novel, which means most of it is reading through text and looking at pictures. If that's not your jam, we're going through it and giving them silly voices while adding our own commentary over top. You might find that more appealing. And many hours in now, we have finally reached the end of Act 1 and revealed that this is, in fact, a horror game. We've alluded to it for a little while now. Fred and Riley have known something was coming up, but we're starting to get into the meat of the matter. So now is a great time for you to start getting involved.
Yeah, I would say our perspective on it would be like episode 1 is me and Fred both not knowing what's going on, and like me taking opportunity to make Fred uncomfortable because I know that anime dating sim isn't his like main squeeze when it comes to video game. So that's basically what episode 1 is. And then episode 2 is us like wait kick, knowing there's a kick, but not knowing what the kick is.
Yeah.
And
the
episode 2
calm before the storm.
And it ends with the kick, I believe, right, Bruno? That's kind of where that's going to be episode 2, kind of just what we did the other night.
Episode 3 actually. We have episode 2, which is just another supercut of just like a few hours of you guys playing through. A couple more interesting things in there. More, you guys tried building a haiku. That was kind of fun.
We did poetry.
We did
good poems.
But yes,
we're good at poems.
episode 3 coming out soon is the one that Jack was just talking about, and hopefully we'll have episodes 4 and maybe 5 after that.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll have
Much
to see.
like all great streaming service, you really have to hang on for the first 3 episodes if you want to know what the show's about. All right. Yeah, we've just been having a lot of fun with that. That's kind of been our Halloween streaming series. So make sure to check it out and make sure you subscribe to the Nerd Out so you can hear all of our Halloween themed Nerd Outs that we've done. We did a commentary track for Spanish Dracula, the 1930s horror movie. We did with Deepax, we talked about the modern version of The Thing. The classic version of The Thing is one of my favorite horror
Everyone's
movies.
favorite.
So we all checked out the more recent one. And then with Jax, we did we're doing the Doki Doki Lit Club. And and then with Fred, we're doing a board game quiz coming up. And then we're playing Alien Isolation. I'm playing that with Deepak. That's been fun. We're getting spooky over there. And the last thing I wanted to plug was that we're going to end the year with our big Halloween spectacular episode. If you're a member, if you're a subscriber to the Nerd Out, you'll get that then. If not, you'll get it next Halloween. So you want to make sure you get it this year and don't have to wait a whole year for it. But it's going to be our Spirit Halloween Super Slugger Fest. This was originally supposed to be our first Nerd Out of the season,
but it kind of blew up.
I realized what it was going to be, and I just wanted to give you guys a preview of like what I'm dealing with over here. So I discovered that each year between 2006 to the present, stores have different theming,
right?
Depending on the store.
Isn't it Halloween themed?
No, I'm sorry. So, like for example, let me find a good one. Oh, here we go. 2010.
You haven't found the Halloween, Fred?
So it's like which products they have on prominent display in the store, right? And so then each year there's like a new kind of line of products, right? So for example, in 2010, there was the Tree Tunnel, the Cirque du Spirit, the Zombie Baby Playground, the Spirit Halloween Cemetery, the Toy Story 3 display, the Spirit Horrorplex Theater, and then an unnamed cinema theme.
Hey, what was it? Zombie clown babies is the worst combination of words anyone's concocted.
So anyway,
how did that happen? Who let this happen?
I'm pulling a lot of photos. We're going to talk about it. A man who used to run an underwear name was Joe Marver. We're going to talk about it.
Why is Toy Story 3 just randomly in there?
Well, that's probably because Disney paid him $1 million.
You got to move some product. We're good. Listen. This is what you call a teaser. $5 a month. NIHF.com. You give us $5 a month to help make these shows, to help us pay the bills. You get to hear all this crazy stuff I have learned about the Spirit Halloween store over the years, and complete with video and or visuals of all of these things. Bruno, don't worry, I have a folder for you. There's a link. You're good, bud. I'm doing the work on this one. So yeah,
he's our man on the ground.
Come join us for our Spirit Halloween Spectacular. I might insist we do it live. We'll see what happens. Announcements to come on that front. Let's get to the news, guys.
Yeah, that's what we do here.
You guys, let's start this headline roundup with me just asking you guys cold a question. Have you heard about this new Grand Theft Auto game?
Isn't exactly how I would put it.
Well, okay. Yeah, there you go.
I didn't realize it was going to be a game. I knew Netflix was doing something with Grand Theft Auto. I thought it would be a show.
Well, Jack, do you want to talk about what it is?
I constantly forget that Netflix is trying to break into
games.
Do they? I know that they've been trying to break into that space.
They do. You can play them right now.
I never.
That doesn't mean they've space.
I just said they have video games.
I'm always forgetting that they do good games.
Obviously, Grand Theft Auto is a big franchise, and its last game, GTA 5, came out 12 years ago. So people have been eagerly awaiting GTA 6. This is not that. This would be more akin to like a mobile game coming from Netflix, which I'm not saying that couldn't work, but a lot of the traditional mechanics I associate with Grand Theft Auto, like driving or shooting, feel like they wouldn't be great like an entirely touchscreen controller, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like you really want some more kinetic feedback from those things.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be more focused on the heisting or planning out the heist, which turned out to be a really big part of and I would expect will be a big part of the series going forward. Um,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, one of the things that I saw is that so there was this report in the Wall Street Journal, right, that Netflix is spending $1 billion on video games, right? So far, this marks the point where they have spent $1 billion in their gaming retinue. And they seem to be, according to this Wall Street Journal piece, they seem to be aiming to hire more game executives to oversee like a big AAA title. Right now, kind of to your exact point, Jack, that's not a thing they've gotten to yet. So they've
Mhm.
been stuck in this weird limbo, Fred, of like they make basically mobile games because they don't have first party hardware. They can't guarantee that the person on the receiving end has that level of hardware. Users aren't gamers; they're people who want to watch TV shows,
Mhm.
and 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 yeah, they have all this IP that they want to mine, right? Like they want to be able to make a very successful Stranger Things. They want to be able to make a really successful Wednesday video game. They want to be able to get in on the Witcher action in some way if they could figure that out. But but Fred, so far they lack the internal expertise, I think.
Mhm. It, on one hand, I kind of gotta give them credit. It's clear that they don't have the resources that Amazon did, because Amazon, when they tried to break into the space, they just wanted to spend as much money as possible, just forcing a game out.
Right. And they seem to
Um,
think that was the way to do it is got it.
yeah, and that clearly hasn't happened with Netflix, which, I, no surprise, Netflix does not have the Amazon budget, but it we saw how it worked for Amazon, and it didn't. So
Mhm.
that's fine. I would like games of these shows. I like these shows that they're doing. I think they're trying to like reinvent the wheel here, and they're very competent people that would love to make those games if they just worked a deal out. So I don't know. It's weird that Netflix is trying to be the guy to make video games in a world where no one wants to make video games anymore. They want to sell video games.
Do you guys think the solution is like backbone it or something? Like rely on a different third party like some form of turn your phone into a controller and then Netflix just assumes you have a controller, or I don't know. What do you if you were
I mean,
to
there are third-party peripherals of all sorts already.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That could work for sure. Definitely anyone who's like intensely into mobile gaming as a market would probably already have one. Uh, and you know, Apple is making a similar push right now. Their newest phone is supposed to be able to party AAA games, so maybe this will become a more dominant force, and that'll help Netflix out too.
Yeah, yeah. That's true. I have access to the Apple Arcade and I never check in on that one either. Worth doubling back on. All right.
Hmm.
Comics book news. Woo, woo, woo. I know we all get excited for comic book news around here. Guys, the Ultimate Universe is back. I don't know if you know that it went away, but the universe has gone away for a little while, and now it is returning with 3 new Ultimate books. So there an event in Marvel Comics recently. I don't know if you'll believe me that it was called this or not, but it was called Ultimate Invasion. And that had led to
I'll
the
believe that.
Yeah,
I know,
that sounds right.
that sounds like and so that has led to the reintroduction of the Ultimate Universe to introduce was the quote introduce readers new readers to this line. Um, so do you guys know about the Ultimates universe, or is that kind of a new term for y'all as well? Do I need to get into
I
Ultimate
heard
News?
the term, but I couldn't tell you what it means.
I'm familiar with
So
it. Yeah.
Marvel, the Ultimate Universe existed just kind of as this parallel universe where all the Marvel heroes where you could just do really fucky things with them and no one would care, right? So like in
Like
the
what if?
ultimate, yeah, basically. But like so like originally, right? Here's an example. Miles Morales is the Spider-Man in the Ultimate Universe. That's where Miles Morales came from,
Okay.
Oh, okay.
right? Was somebody was like, what if I just killed Peter Parker and had a new Spider-Man? And it's the Ultimate Universe. No one cares. Do it. And so he did it.
Mhm.
And that's who Miles Morales is. Really clean example. Um, but there's also like, hold on. This is the level of thing that I really should. I'm gonna get on a list. What I think is. Hold on. I just want to fact check myself before I even say this to you guys. I know Bruno can cut everything, but
You just don't want our opinion of you to be marred personally.
exactly. I'm really worried about Fresh.
What are you looking up?
The America being a Nazi thing.
Well,
No,
can't say it.
that was in continuity. That's right.
That was just regular old Cap.
Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver have an incestuous relationship in the Ultimate Universe,
Cool.
which Magneto like kind of fine with
Oh,
because they're bad
Well,
guys.
yeah, I mean, he sucks.
So anyway,
very
stuff like that happens
Lannister-y.
in the yeah,
Mm.
exactly, very Lannister-y indeed. So that's what stuff like that.
Guys, their
You know,
genes
you
are
can
already
just
not.
do. There's basically no rules in the Ultimates universe. You could do whatever you want with these characters, and you can get away with it. So it's kind of a cool, fun. And they had some really talented creators who are coming to these first 3 series. First up, we got Ultimate Spider-Man #1 by Jonathan Hickman with art by Marco Cicchetto, which I think is gonna be really, really good. Always a big fan of an Ultimate Spider-Man.
Mhm.
Wasn't it Miles Morales?
Well, it was eventually. I mean, it started off
Mm.
as Peter Parker, and then somebody was like, "Hey, what if we make it Miles?" But yeah,
Yeah.
we're looking at of it here. I think it looks really cool and exciting. This might be a book that actually
Oh,
gets
that's
me
bonkers.
back on a weekly reading schedule just for
Yeah,
this one title.
just like
That
based
was
off
cool.
of this gift that they released, it looks like it will also be including like Venom,
Yeah.
Ben Riley,
Yeah.
Miguel O'Hara.
Yep. Yes,
So
this
looks
is
like some
this
really
is
good
the
stuff.
kind of spider in a world that is dominated by Spider-Man traveling through dimensions. This is the kind of spider fuckery I like, where it's like there's a bunch of different Spider-Mans all at the same time. So I want to check out that book. We are also getting Ultimate Black Panther from Brian and art by Stefano Caselli, and Ultimate X-Men, written and drawn by Peach Momoko. So yeah, X-Men is always a book, a new jumping on title. I'm like interested, and I feel like I let it go by. So that might be one that I really do try and find, because I would love that. Just for other context, Brian Hill, who is doing the Black Panther comic, is currently writing Blade.
Mm.
So that'll be cool. And just did the Demon Wars miniseries in the Marvel Universe. So cool stuff all around. Excited for the Ultimate Universe to be back. I like the kind of chicanery you can pull over there in a world that I feel is Kevin Feige'd up. I want to see them. I want to see him do some weird stuff again.
Yeah, for sure.
Hot take, but like the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man does going through dimension better than any other superhero.
Fair. Interesting.
Which I don't think that should happen, but he does.
Yeah. Maybe we're due for a reckoning. Speaking of, next up in the news, I've got another phrase. I'm curious if you guys heard. Byron Allen says he wants to buy ABC, and he says he's the best guy for it. He says that Disney's going to be
Now,
blocked.
that's not what he said.
He said, well, fine, Jack. Do you want to say the quote?
Oh, he said, "I'm the prettiest girl at the dance."
He did say I'm the
Which would
prettiest
sell
girl.
me.
He did say I'm the prettiest girl at the dance. Byron Allen is a phenomenally successful businessman who has worked in this for a long time. If there is anybody who is actually serious about buying the network, he is probably the guy. Were Deepak able to join us today, he would also have you know that he had been very interested in buying the Washington football team, very interested in buying the Denver football team, and I believe there's at least one baseball team out there he's trying to get his hands on. So he is just a guy who is interested in acquisition because
a lot of money.
he knows how to take things and quickly turn them into a lot of profit, and then if he feels necessary, he will sell it and then make a lot of money himself. Like, this is what he does, right? And he's personal friends with Bob Iger, first of all. but he has also seen the news about Iger wanting to pare down Disney, and he's clearly making it very obvious to everyone that he wants to get in on this. So the quote he said is, "Capital's not an issue," which he said in reference to needing $10 billion.
Yeah, that's not something a lot of people can say to Disney.
I have access to plenty of capital. There's trillions of dollars out there looking for a safe place to invest and get it back with a return. And his point that he's been making is that if a big tech company tries to buy it, it should be blocked as a monopoly. If private to buy it, it should probably be investigated. So he would be the quickest and easiest person to get, a deal done with.
This off your hands.
Yeah. He's looking to buy.
That's a weird point, but
He's so pretty. He did his makeup.
He's got that's.
He did another interview though where he said that in his opinion, Iger's not ready to sell it yet, which I thought was like real power play. Yeah, right, exactly. Iger's gonna be like, "I'll show you how good I am at selling it."
Just daring him to sell.
Is there any thing that we would know?
Oh, Byron Allen from his professional work.
Yeah,
yeah. Here, let me pull up the best of hits so I don't leave any out. Byron Allen. He's also been
he's not the guy responsible for changing the Sam Adams formula.
He's not. No, he's not the guy that changed the Sam Adams formula, Fred. Don't worry about that.
But he is in that echelon of guys.
Yeah, he would be that guy, but he's not.
He probably could change Sam Adams formula.
He changed Sam Adams formula back. Or...
He set his mind to it.
So he started as a stand-up comedian.
That's insane.
Really?
And at 14 years old, joined a comedy writing team where he was working with Jay Leno and David Letterman.
Well, that's a pretty good break.
In 1970, I'm just reading you his Wikipedia. In 1979, at 18, he made his television debut on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, becoming the youngest comedian to ever perform on the show. Following his Tonight Show, NBC cast him as a reporter for a series called Real People, which was a primetime, gig.
Mm-hmm.
He then co-wrote and co-starred in the 1988 CBS television film Case Closed, and hosted Byron Allen Show from 1989 to 1992, and toured as an opening act for musicians such as Dolly Parton, Gladys Knight, Lionel Richie, and the Pointer Sisters. But this is where it gets fun. In 1993, he establishes CF Entertainment, which would be develop and producing low-cost nonfiction television programming. Its first program becomes the syndicated talk show Entertainers with Byron Allen, which features interviews between him and celebrities, right?
Mm-hmm.
The company's renamed Entertainers in 2003. In 2012, he begins forays into scripted programming with sitcoms, and in later decades, Entertainment Studios began to pursue various acquisitions, including and this is where our guy starts having fun. He buys Freestyle Racing, he buys the Grio, I think is how you say it, the Weather Channel, as Bruno alluded to, and then he gets equity stakes in Sinclair Broadcasting Group and Fox Sports Network, and various broadcast television stations. And then in last year, 2022, he made a bid to buy the Broncos, but he was outbid. So yeah, he has just worked his way up in the entertainment industry, doing various jobs from the time that he was a 14-year-old professional, and now he owns the Weather Channel.
Okay.
Pretty wild.
Honestly, I think he could actually do some really fun stuff with ABC, and he would probably put out good television. That's
yeah. A whole profile on him on CBS this year. If anybody's interested, it was really good. All right. So yeah, Byron Allen says he wants to buy ABC, and that would be nuts. So I'm in. Next up, we got a look at what the voice cast is going to be for the boy in the upcoming Hayao Miyazaki movie that we're all very excited for. I'm just going to throw out some names and see if you've heard of any of them. Christian Bale, Gemma Chan, Mark Hamill, Florence Pugh, Dave Bautista, Willem Dafoe, Robert Pattinson, Dan Stevens.
I know all those people, Riley.
I mean, the of Miyazaki movies always end up with these ridiculous casts, but this is
it's not even Christian Bale's first.
This looks like it is a red carpet lineup, right? This isn't the voice cast for a Japanese animated movie.
No, I mean, look, these guys all clearly recognize Miyazaki, and
Absolutely.
yeah, and they just
Well, and
are
there's a
happy to be part of it.
decent. I mean, he keeps retiring and getting older, and like, there's a decent chance that any one of these could actually be the last one. So,
Mhm.
I would understand wanting to get in on it.
Did you guys hold on? I have to pull the quote. I agree with that. Let me ask you guys an ancillary question while I pull this funny Miyazaki quote. Best animated lock?
Best
Could be,
animated lock?
could be.
Like, is it a lock for best animated picture?
Oh, I thought you meant do they animate locks good?
Yeah,
I think
I
so.
can see with this cast, like you've got
Has
enough.
he won one before? Didn't he like not take one for uh Princess Mononoke?
So he has had all sorts of Oscar hubbub that we can get to,
Sure.
Yeah,
but he did win.
when this English cast came out, I just texted my friend like GG across the Spider-Verse. Yeah.
It's been a crazy year.
Mhm.
Anyway, yeah, Jack, he won in 2003. Um,
Yeah.
and did he accept? Okay.
If you don't have that readily available. I just feel like I remember hearing that he did not.
No, I can find it. Just give me one
Because
second.
he's, the protesty type.
He's high.
I don't know if you've seen his movies. I'm excited though. I'm particularly excited that Robert Pattinson is playing a character called the Grey Heron, who I presume is the titular Heron.
Oh, he is the Heron. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
they have the cast out,
Which
like the actual like assignments out.
yeah, they have
Not
character
assignments,
names.
but
The assignments.
yeah. Roles.
Mm-hmm.
Assignments.
Yeah, Mark Hamill is the Grand Uncle, king of all uncles.
Well,
I like that. That sounds good. That's
mhm.
sort of
I
what
added the
people
last
wanted.
part. He's probably just his uncle's dad.
King of all uncles is what people wanted Luke Skywalker to be.
Wouldn't his uncle's dad just be his grandfather?
Maybe? Oh no, you're right. What would a grand uncle be? Would it be your grandfather's brother then?
Yeah, yeah.
Jack, I'm
Your
stopping this
dad's
research
uncle,
because I've realized that you're the
or
one that
your,
has
your
access
parents'
to the
uncle.
AI thing. So yeah, anyway, I'm hoping this one's going to be a gigantic success. I'm hoping that some of these I have very strong opinions about celebrity voice casting that we don't have to get into here right now because it's not necessarily what it's about. I guess it is kind of about it. It's frustrating to me that it requires you to cast Mark Hamill and Florence Pugh to convince American audiences to go see a Hayao Miyazaki movie.
Mm.
I
But
mean, yeah, like we've talked
under
at Mario and Chris Pratt
yeah,
a bunch,
right.
and there it's frustrating. But also, like this is always how Miyazaki movies have been billed in the West, like separate from any sort of you should cast voice actors issues.
And it's
Uh,
because they were originally released through a contract that Disney had with the Weinstein Company. And this is how
mhm.
Harvey Weinstein played Oscars is he gets a lot of celebrities
Mhm.
involved if he could. So it's also a relic of that, which is weird and gross. But anyway, I am hoping to get away from that topic as quickly as possible. I am hoping that this results in a lot of people seeing and enjoying because as
Mhm.
Jack
Sure.
said, whether or not it's going to be Miyazaki's last one, I do think it's going to be pretty beautiful. And so I'm hoping people get the chance to enjoy it. All right, last part of the roundup. You guys see these Avatar picks?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they look good.
You guys are more Avatar heads than me, so please feel free to take this away, Fred.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like I just got into Avatar when they put it on Netflix pretty recently, just within the past couple of years. So that was the first time I'd seen a fantastic show. Um, Already leaps and bounds better than the previous live action Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I
But
mean, they
no,
look great.
they do. They look like the characters too, which is weird because you can never quite get that.
Yeah, I
I don't
think
know.
Iroh looks great. Zhao is a
Iroh,
little questionable, but whatever.
I, I,
Most important character.
yeah, right. I think they all look good.
It's
I think
weird.
that
It's
Go ahead.
weird seeing the kids at like the actual ages that they're supposed to be. They just
Yeah.
seem so young, but I'm
Yeah.
sure they'll play it well.
Right.
Hmm.
I'm really
I'm
excited for
excited.
Daniel Day Kim.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Also, Daniel Day, a big, intimidating man, and he's a good fire lord.
Yeah, he looks
It's
amazing with that beard in front of all that fire. I was like, let's go.
the thing is like, Jedi never really has a lot of like he's got one really big about. He doesn't show up a ton.
I mean, he sort of intentionally in the original show, you don't even see his face until season 3. But when Netflix did a live action Cowboy Bebop, they shifted a lot of narrative focus over to the villain, actually, because
Okay.
there was a lot of room to write in new stuff there where there sort of wasn't with the main
Mm,
cast. I will be
yeah.
interested if we get more Fire Nation drama here too, in a similar way to more success.
Yeah. I mean, this could come to no surprise to you guys, but I'm always the guy that roots for the villains and things. Like, it's becoming a bit of a problem. So just having the Fire Nation people pick first, I'm like, yeah, like, all right, this is great.
Not to dampen our own fire, but I'll be our bad guy here, or at least remind us who the bad guy is, and just say that Jack alluded to the Cowboy Bebop series, and let's all remember that that was also canceled after 1 season. So
Yeah, we don't. I mean, I haven't seen
Ooh.
But One
the
Piece.
costuming and set design look good, which more than we can say about the last time live action Avatar happened, but we have no proof of quality yet.
Mhm.
also, quality doesn't necessarily mean anything when it comes to Netflix cancellations.
Well, that's true.
That is true. Rest in peace,
So
Daybreak.
yep, just as a to everybody that this is going to bring a lot of new subscribers to Netflix, which is what they want. And then once they have them, I just want everybody to be prepared because this doesn't necessarily mean we're getting an entire. It seems less and less likely to me every year, and we'll talk about this more during the actual chunk of the show. But seems less and less likely to me every year that this is going to mean we're getting an actual start to finish Avatar live action adaptation. But
Hmm.
I didn't mean to bring the party down. Just more on that to come. All right, we're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna talk some more news.
So, you guys, do you keep up with Rick and Morty still? It's been out for a while.
I feel like I follow Rick and Morty the same way I follow like the Kardashian shows, where like I am adjacent to the culture, but I myself do not
Hmm.
participate. But I'm interested when there's
Hmm.
big shakeups. So
Big shakeup.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
aware of the news.
Yes. Mhm.
So,
Yeah, no, I
season
mean,
7 of Rick.
I watched a couple of their seasons. I kind of fell off of season 4, 5,
Mm.
Sure.
I think.
You weren't
You're
into the
the only
Mambo
one.
Sauce revolution.
Yeah, I don't think you were the only one. I think a lot of people, especially some of the recent seasons, haven't been doing as well as the earlier ones did,
Hmm.
which makes news all the more interesting because, as you said, Riley, there's been a big shakeup. They have had to replace its, in some episodes, only voice cast, which is Justin Roiland, uh, with 2 newcomers, Ian Cardoni and Harry Belden.
Hmm.
Uh, this was a huge recasting. A lot of people who even just knew about the show and had any sort of vocal or voice talent history would have wanted to get in on it. They said they being the showrunners said that they had thousands of candidates that they went through to pick the 2 that they did. And I don't know if you guys have heard the new voices, but I feel like they were a pretty good choice, at least in terms of reproducing the old voices.
Is that what they're going for? They're just trying to just do Josh Roiland, or are they trying to put their own
I
spin
think
on it?
so. Yeah, they're pretty. At least the ones they ended up with were pretty identical. I'm sure they got doing all sorts of previous types.
Yeah, because I am not surprised that there were thousands of people trying to
Hmm.
just do Rick and Morty voices. Like, I feel like that's probably conservative, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I like
They.
to imagine
Hmm.
I was just, I like to imagine the absolute gonzo hell of a casting director having to sit through everybody who thinks they have a good Rick and Morty
oh
impression.
god, yeah, right.
Yeah, showrunner Scott Martyr said, "We heard thousands for 6 months. It was really wide. It was almost so wide we debated doing a global hotline, although we knew that would wind up being a prank line. But that's how far we needed to go. Rick was a lot harder than they expect. People sounded like Macho Man Randy Savage. No one sounded exactly right.
That's interesting.
I feel like I would just pull up footage from like any of the McDonald's thing with the Szechuan incident and just be like, "This you, this you,
Right.
it is.
Yeah, we
Get
need
the
to
fuck
know
out."
we need to know where you were that week. It becomes like their January 6th.
Yeah.
It's funny because like there are certain characters. There are certain folks in the world, right, who just become like an impression that everybody they can do a voice says they can do, right? Like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Arnold
or
Schwarzenegger is like the
whatever.
big one, yeah.
Well, that's the one we're bringing back. I feel like Arnold's kind of fallen out of the conversation, but I feel like this show is doing a good job of bringing him back. But yeah, Rick and Morty like just anybody who does any kind of voice figures they can do them, and so it must have been really challenging to find someone who actually brought like nuance to the performance.
They I also thought it was like they talked about trying to cast a really wide net, and they said Martyr again said if the perfect Morty lived in Norway, we had to figure out how to work with that time gap. We were trying to be open-minded. And then Harmon said, I didn't even know names. These guys would keep me blind in strategic ways. So I thought it was I mean, like you said, it's a nightmare situation, but it sounds like they took it very seriously, and I think they got the rewards out of it. Now we just have to see if the show continues to does better, because like I said, I think unrelatedly, people have been falling off of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just got to a good ending, and like,
yeah.
I just wanted to really quickly also throw out there that because I like to take and to shit on Dan Harmon on this show just because I think it's a fun hobby of mine. It's nothing personal to Dan. I just think he's a terrible person. So that paragraph that Jack was reading from about how he was strategically kept away from meeting the cast does quote. I did meet both these kids at a Dodgers game when we were celebrating wrapping the season. I couldn't believe how young they were. I can't imagine what it's like for them to be wandering into this gig, which is like nice if you don't think about it too much. But like, hey, Dan, I think you probably could after the cast, like in between then and the whole season. I think you probably could have met these guys, Dan. Like, was the old vodka IV drip just not long enough? You couldn't get into the sound booth.
Well,
he had
so
to keep writing.
Here's the thing, though, because they said that they didn't even tell him his name. Like, was it like the production team just trying to shield these guys from Dan?
Yeah, they were trying to protect them. They were like, "Yeah, Dad, it's a double blind thing."
Yeah, like
science, man, science.
Yeah, and then like be at the Dodgers game, and the production's like, "Shit, they're gonna meet. They're gonna meet."
This
Oh
is them.
God!
It's like, oh, damn it.
We're in
So
public. We're in
close.
public. Cameras.
You guys are so young. It's crazy how young you are. I don't know if he's still an alcoholic. I'm alcoholic for sure. I don't know if he's hard to keep up with. He's in and out of rehab.
He's a funny guy.
He's a funny man. I worry about people who I think are suffering, who are allowed to do whatever they want because they're successful. Scale of 1 to 10, you guys gonna check back in? I mean, for the premiere was this week. We're saying maybe we'll check it out. It's out there. You could watch it right now.
No, I have seen the first one.
Yeah, I'll pop in. I'll pop in, just see what it's about.
Mostly, I mean, I am curious how much the new voices will bring new people in, and I think that metric will be like the drop off from episode 1 to episode 2 viewership of people who are just like, oh yeah, all right, it sounds the same, and then didn't keep up with the rest of the season. We'll see.
Yeah,
I think they'll have
Jack,
they'll have a better time like keeping me if they're just different enough. Like if they do it just a little bit different, I'd be like, oh, this is interesting. Let's see where this goes.
Also, you know, we're having fun shitting on Dan Harmon, but it's nice that the show has a better sort of moral air about it now.
Yeah. True.
Sorry, I'm going down a rabbit hole of reading headlines about Dan.
Anything worth sharing?
Yes. Well, no.
Well, that's probably good.
I mean, I just won't take the time to. Here's my thing. I feel like I need to start from the beginning.
Oh.
You just
I
forget
mean,
everything?
I've never watched this show.
Oh, well, fair enough.
Weird.
I feel like I need to go back, but that's where the bad man is. I'm not supposed to do
That's
those
where the
things.
bad man's where we
Crap.
boxed him up.
You stuck him in
Well,
the bad.
I mean,
no,
what are you gonna
'cause
do? They're not gonna re-record the original episodes.
yeah,
Same.
I would have to watch it, but I mean, I feel like because I forget when the Finite Curve episode was. Is it 4 and
This would
3?
be a good
Um,
project. This would be a good project for the three of you because I know that Deepak's also a big fan. Bruno, I don't know if you want to make that a foursome.
No, I'm on the same boat
okay,
as you.
Yeah,
you
because I
guys
feel like
for Deepak or for Bruno and I, and also readers, if you guys put together
assemble a
like
required reading.
a binge guide of these are the episodes you've got to actually watch if you want to get caught up as
Mm,
quickly as possible.
mhm,
that might
'cause-
be interesting.
yeah, I don't know. I think with where I left the show, it was like a solid ending. So if it's like a restart, then you might not need to.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Fred. And they also had a very similar sort of narrative climax at the end of the last season too.
Mm.
In terms of like if you want to an arcs, which is really getting long enough that you kind of should at this point.
Yeah.
Um so I'm interested to see how it moves forward. But
Yeah.
One other little Dan Jason rabbit hole I'd like to take us down really quickly.
all right.
I think we've referenced this before, but there was a piece about it on comicbook.com, which is not always a headline that I like to shout out, but this one I thought was great. It was a piece about the kind of internal ecosystem of Rick and Morty writers who become Marvel punch-up writers, or just Marvel
Okay.
writers in general. And so now there's this like whole system where like
It's a whole
Dan
pipeline now.
Dan Harmon just keeps feeding these guys to Kevin Feige, and then Kevin using them to elevate, because they have all this experience writing really complicated multiverse stories, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So like the Loki writers room, I think, is mostly manned by former Rick and Morty guys, and that's
Well,
why.
no, I mean even the Russo brothers worked with Dan Harmon on Community,
Yeah,
right?
on Community.
Mhm.
I also think Dan Harmon teaches you how to work with a strong dictating personality who's going to expect that you sort of take his word and work inside of that. And I think that's
Mhm.
business
Good for
experience you
people
need
to
at
go
Marvel.
into Disney.
Yeah, right. Marvel specifically. But yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to call that one out as well. So maybe that's why we got to keep this show going. As long as there is an MCU, there must be a Rick and Morty.
Yeah, so we had touched on Netflix a little bit earlier, but so Netflix is
My
going to do
favorite guy, Netflix. Anything that makes me sad or upset.
I'm glad you feel that way, Jackson, because now is your opportunity to give Netflix more money.
Oh,
Because
my
yeah,
favorite thing.
so Netflix is graciously changing the pricing structure again. I feel like they do this yearly, but this one they added just a little bit more pizzazz for it. Uh, so they're removing the basic plan, but they do have a standard plan with ads for only
Or the
$6.99 a
synonym
month.
plan.
Yeah, it's it's actually cheaper than the previous Netflix basic plan. But now they're ads. So
Oh, great.
if you're missing that TV thing, you can pay them money to watch ads on their shows, which is honestly thoughtful of them, really. So the normal standard plan that we're all used to is going up to $15.49 a month, which I've never seen a 49-cent plan. I think they're doing something a little new. Love that for them. Very, very chic. Just so good.
Well, to be clear, Fred, just one thing I wanted to underline is that the basic plan is the one that we're all used to. That plan no longer exists.
Oh, right. No, yeah.
So they have eliminated what most subscribers have and getting shifted over to this standard model.
with ads. Yeah, standard with ads. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, the naming conventions have always messed me up a little bit.
No, yeah, it's tricky.
Standard with ads and then standard. So it's
Right.
$7 with ads and then double that and a little bit with no ads. And then there's the premium plan, which we all used to cost $20 a month, and that's going up to 2023 basically.
It used to cost like $12 a month.
I know.
Well,
So
listen, may I jump in here really quickly?
yeah,
Just because
Uh-huh.
I have pulled what I always love to pull, something that I have bookmarked, which is our show notes from 11/6/2019, which was when the night before Disney Plus launched, and we talked about what is it that we think the next couple of years are going to look like. And if I may, we've talked a lot about how Disney has hit its subscriber goals really early on, but our bottom line assessment, where was it? Was that here we go. Um, Adults age 30 to 44 paying for more than 5 streaming services at that time was 4%. And our expectation was that the equilibrium was going to be 3 streaming services per house at about $21.
Oh my God.
And at the time,
we're real
if you
smart.
at the time, if you wanted Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Peacock, and Apple TV, you were paying $45 a month total.
My God.
So now here we are.
We
in
didn't know how good we had it.
We didn't know we had it. I'm saying, because now here we are in 2023, and everybody's getting ready to pay Netflix a minimum of $7, but if they don't want ads, $15.50.
So I want to add on that too, because it's not just the ads for me. It's the streaming quality.
Yes, absolutely.
Because if you're watching on
Right.
your phone, standard might work, but if
Right.
you're getting a new
Which
phone,
is how most people do.
I think if people are watching on their TVs, the quality is not good.
Right. But
Yeah,
Jack's
and
saying
that's what
most
I'm
people
saying.
consume
Most
it on their
people
phone.
aren't.
Yeah, I think most. Do you think most people watch Netflix only on their phones?
I think most hours Netflix is consumed is phone based.
Interesting.
I'm not saying that those people don't also have it on their TV, but I think a lot of people watch, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because otherwise they would care about the quality.
I don't know if it makes a difference between TV and computers, but I usually do most of my watching on the computer.
That's probably also worth thinking about. And
I mean, it's almost certainly not 4K unless you've
right.
spent $1,000 on your monitor.
But it's another viewership group, right, who are all having this same experience, which alley of Game of Thrones and going, I can't see shit, not realizing that they're price locked out of the
Yeah.
actual show the way that the people who made it thought you were going to be watching it.
Yeah.
Right.
No, like the only reason I'm on premium is because I watch it on a TV, and I'm like, well, I
Yeah,
can't do
same.
standard. I cannot
No.
do standard.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, it's nuts.
But
Anyway,
the good news is you can always just borrow your friend's account.
Can you?
So anyway, 23 about half of our
So yeah,
total
I
all-in
mean,
budget at the time, but
of everything, yeah,
is more than our equilibrium price. So I don't know if it's going to hold or whatever.
that's insane.
Yeah.
That was our guess for 3 services.
With services, you would pay $21.
That wasn't that long ago.
And it wasn't even our guess. We were looking at like market experts who were talking about stuff at that time. There was this really good piece. I remember. I mean, we have all the links here still.
We have the shows up.
Look at this rumors. Yeah, this Hollywood Reporter piece was great, but I just like talking about what we were thinking about at the time. Rumors that Peacock will be free.
Because who would pay for a streaming service called Peacock?
TV is still out there hustling, was our take at the time. Weaknesses, everything sucks. Now they're like the best streaming service.
Well, everything did suck at the time.
This
I
was
do
back when they
remember
just
that.
had Momoa not being able to see his babies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the streaming wars, they continue on.
Becoming a real war of attrition, these wars.
All right, to conclude our big TV shakeup, I want to talk to you two a little bit about what's been going on over at our favorite television studio, the Walt Disney Company. And specifically what's been going on with there's been some funny business with their Marvel shows. Now, we've talked quite a bit about the Jonathan Majors of it all,
Hmm.
right? Uh, and we will get to the Loki part. But I wanted to start by talking about
There he
Daredevil.
is, Jonathan.
There he is. Yeah, I wanted to start by talking about Daredevil because um, the first kind of sign that something was going on was a couple of weeks ago when Disney hit the reset button on Daredevil, the Daredevil show that was coming to Disney Plus. When they shot a considerable amount of it. I mean, I had
Hmm.
seen them out shooting it in New York, and
Hmm.
Yeah,
so I
I
can
remember.
confirm from eyewitness account that they
From
have been
firsthand
working on it.
experience that they
But
did shoot.
It
but
was
we all
half the season
know,
that they had finished by the time the
yeah,
strike started.
yeah, we know that they had about 50 hours in the can or whatever, and we're supposed to be pretty good to go. Um, but the overall concern and the concept of superhero fatigue, I think, are getting people to worry like about what the direction is. It might come out that it's going to be a movie. It might come out that they're going to abandon it entirely. It might come out that it's just going to be a rethought out TV series. I don't know. But it's like the problem of all the interconnectedness of all this, right? Because we already have Vincent D'Onofrio in other stuff being the Kingpin now. Like he's out there doing that.
Hmm.
Uh, we've had Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock in the Spider-Man movie already, and
Hmm.
Hmm.
in so, so that's not going away. It's just, I guess, how are they approaching this particular property? But I mean, maybe they don't want Daredevil to go the way of the Moon Knight, perhaps. But what are you guys' thoughts on why they might be resetting this show halfway through? I can give
I
you
mean,
a quote from the piece if this helps. One insider familiar with the process said, "TV is a writer-driven medium. Marvel is a Marvel-driven medium."
I mean,
Yeah.
I remember seeing comments somewhere about how they thought it was too much of a court procedural, and then also like it wasn't too reminiscent of the original Daredevil, which is something that they were
Mm,
like looking for.
mm.
Hmm. When you say original, do you mean like the Netflix one or the Ben
Netflix,
Affleck one? Okay.
the original Charlie Cox one. Yeah.
Not reminiscent enough of the Ben Affleck one. More absurd Irish accents, please.
No.
I mean, Disney's also been going, like you sort of been going through a rough period of 6 months during the strike in terms of their own identity, I think.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Um, so it's possible that they just have different feelings about how it should be done than when they started.
yeah.
But you're
So
right, it is pretty extreme.
they shit canned the head writers, and they also released the directors from their obligations for the rest of the season. So
Yep.
who
That's a
knows?
good sign.
Yeah,
Mhm. It might be a thing where they just have too much properties or what niche they want this particular thing to fill. Right? They've got all of these tools at their disposal, and they're like, I don't know if I need a slightly bigger hammer in this particular case. If
In the
mm,
legal drama
Yeah.
subgenre of television.
Right.
like they,
Exactly.
what else do they need a show about? Like they're like, all right, what do we have? How many shows can we put out there? And but it's like a character that people love, and so they need a show about it. But it's
Well,
just
and it was a show that was, is it fair to say, more successful than most of the shows they've been putting out?
yes, definitely.
Mhm.
But like I think this is part of the problem, right? Because they don't necessarily want to acknowledge the Netflix of it all. But there are reports that Charlie Cox wasn't even in costume until episode 4.
Yeah.
So, like, are we doing a Daredevil show? Are we doing a
What are we doing here?
Matt Murdock thing? They're supposedly trying to adapt a pretty well-known Frank Miller property, but that sort of has the potential. I'm trying to think of like a good metaphor. How like we always have to watch Batman's parents die.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just thinking. Like they're gonna start this new season, and it's just gonna be like, "I'm Matt Murdock, and I'm
Yeah,
blind, but I
right,
can see." It's
right.
like, yeah, we know
Watch me
you're the
walk through
same
the rain.
guy.
Yeah, right. Literally, you're the same dude who explained this to me already. Yeah, so I don't know. We will see. We will see. We will see. But so like all this was happening, right? About the Daredevil of it all. At the same time that Loki hits, and we get this inside quote from Marvel folks in the know that says that Marvel wants to make more TV shows like Loki, right?
Hmm.
What
So
does
this
that
is
mean?
Jack. You took the words out of my mouth. What do you guys think that means?
They want to make
Like
it good.
ones that are successful that people watch?
Like charming buddy cop duo.
Yeah, right.
Well, I
Ones
mean,
that
But,
sure,
star
but then
incredibly
Dear God,
gorgeous actors.
please not multiverse stories. Don't have that be your takeaway.
Right. Sorry, Bruno, you were hopping in.
no, I mean like just pretty much the same thing. But like at the same time, wasn't Daredevil being sort of shot as a buddy cop between Matt Murdock and Foggy Nelson, and then they dislike that?
Maybe, man. I don't know. So that's the thing, right? Is okay. So I'm trying to think back. Loki season 1, right, was very high stakes. It was very exciting. It introduced the multiverse in a way that was like that was cool because we were getting the constant drip, drip, drip of like who's the new Loki gonna be, right? And that was kind of fun. But I
Right.
think really what they mean is that people talked about it, right? Like there was a conversation around Loki season 1 that I'm not even sure
Never.
there will be around Loki season 2, but that there certainly wasn't around like Moon Knight or She-Hulk. Both shows I really enjoyed, but like my friends weren't watching them the same way they were watching Loki, right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
there
I
are
think
There
that's
weren't.
consequences, right? Like, I think Loki show had consequences to the larger MCU,
mm,
right?
Mhm.
And like that was it. Like the Loki show was still, it was like a phase 1 Divergent, right? So it was a character we already cared about,
mhm,
that affected characters we already cared about.
mhm.
Um,
Like
it
Owen
introduced,
Wilson.
Wow.
I mean, like yeah, it introduced new characters, but as they related
No, I
to
know,
the
but
character
we care about him because he's Owen.
right.
Oh,
Wow.
that's my bud.
So the She-Hulk and Moon Knight, those are just new characters.
Well, but
And
even like with She-Hulk, right? Like she was hanging out with Bruce Banner,
mhm,
right? But but yeah, it's the TV stuff just never felt important.
mhm.
I don't
Right.
think, right? Which which is maybe the bigger problem that Feige and maybe even Iger is trying to write right now, right? Is
Mhm.
Isn't
like
that
that.
like Marvel's whole shtick is the blockbuster, which doesn't exist in television,
Mm.
really.
And you know we've had a phenomenon, right, with like golden era TV where somebody like Owen Wilson can do a TV show and we don't feel like it negatively reflects his career, right? Like
Mhm.
not that long ago, if a big time movie actor did TV, we were like, oh, are you? But so that's interesting. But maybe it's not that we've talked so many times about how like Hollywood, what do you call it? Not even Hollywood, but like movie stars don't exist anymore, right?
Mhm.
Maybe it doesn't impact you. Maybe Tom Hanks to do a TV show, but it does impact Spider-Man to do a TV show, right?
Right.
I don't know. Maybe there's something about that. Like
You know,
Tom
but
Holland Spider-Man specifically. You can animate
Right.
up a Spider-Man for a kids show, but when
Mhm.
you could you imagine if it, I mean, I guess we got Nick. We did. I was trying to think. I was going to say
We
Robert
got a
Downey
whole Nick
Jr.,
Fury show.
but we
Mhm.
did. We got a whole Nick Fury show, and I know that some people enjoyed it, but I think it did feel a little small potatoes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing. You're hitting on something there. I couldn't imagine like an Iron Man show.
I don't know.
Right.
I do want to just backtrack a little bit because we do on the show talk about how there are no more movie stars, but then we just looked at the cast of The Boy and the Heron and we were like, bullshit.
And we were like, oh, look at all these guys.
That's a good point. But hey, a lot of those. Could you imagine if? I mean, I don't mean to. Maybe I should check myself, but I'm pretty sure I'm safe in saying this. Can you imagine if Florence Pugh just like showed up in an FX series?
showed up in a Disney show.
God, they did make her do that fucking show.
Which one?
I forgot. She's
She's
in
in
like one
Hawkeye.
episode of Hawkeye.
She's in a
Oh.
couple episodes of Hawkeye.
But she had a lot of fun hanging out with my girl, Lady Hawkeye,
What is? Yeah,
and
Maddie
Haley
Ross.
Steinfeld.
Haley Stein.
Thank you.
And
Yeah,
she'll be in
Maddie Ross.
Thunderbolts,
That's
I
her
think.
name. Yeah, and they're all going to show up in Thunderbolts together. But I also think, Fred, for my money, Hawkeye is probably one of the more successful Disney Plus shows.
I liked it a lot, actually. Very good.
And that's 3 movie stars in that one: Jeremy Renner, Haley Steinfeld, and a late entrance by Miss Florence Pugh. But yeah, I don't know. It seems weird, right? It seems weird that like I understand the original pitch of, hey, we're gonna do a show, a She-Hulk show, whatever. What were the other two? Miss Marvel show, and
WandaVision?
no, but there was 4 that they announced all in that one package.
Echo.
Like after those, maybe Echo, but yeah, like Division, I thought was great, right? Like kick-ass re-examination of the genre. Really enjoyed that. No
Yeah,
complaints.
WandaVision was good.
The Hawkeye I thought was fun. Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I like that one.
I'm sure
did
I
not watch
enjoyed
it.
it when I watched it, but I think it left my brain immediately afterwards. And it's just funny because like those aren't reactions I have to the movies.
No, so I mean, WandaVision and Hawkeye and the Winter Soldier both did 2 things. Like they were necessary to get Wanda Maximoff into the Scarlet Witch role, and they were necessary to get Sam into the Captain America role. Like those are
I see what you're saying.
structurally, like those were important shows because you can't have
For
an
where the
evil
story is
Scarlet.
going broadly.
Yeah, you cannot have an evil Scarlet Witch without WandaVision.
Well, but may I point to the weakness of that? I think, Fred, is that I just watched my spoilers for pop culture recommendations. I just watched Wednesday this week, right? Because I didn't watch it when it came out, so I got around to watching it.
You're a slow bitch sometimes.
I enjoyed it. No one's ever gonna go back and rewatch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right? Like Sam's just Captain America now, and like if you watched that when it was on, you saw it, but there's not rewatch value to it. There might be like something like WandaVision, right? These shows aren't rewatchable, and I would even argue a lot of the Marvel movies don't have the biggest rewatchability in the world.
I was gonna say I'm not rewatching Captain America.
Right, unless you are like, hey, Captain America 4 is coming out, let's watch all the Captain Americas. Because I think that the Marvel strength has always been it is appointment viewing for like the cultural discourse, and that's not the same way with TV shows, right? Like everybody shows up to see the
because
Avengers
you can't just
first
like make that
weekend.
an appointment.
Right. Not everybody go out and watch the entire show. I mean, some people do for some shows, right? And those are the ones we really talk about, right? Those are the ones that break through. It is obvious at this point that the Marvel shows are not breaking through that way. I don't know what the solution is. I mean, I guess it's to make them more Loki, as they say.
Well, yeah, like you touched on Loki earlier.
I look forward to seeing however they actualize that.
I think what makes Loki so successful is just that it's very standalone. Like even in the second season, it's very standalone. Sure,
absolutely.
What happens in that show could affect like movies or other shows, but nothing from the outside is affecting Loki. And
yeah, the show doesn't care about that.
True. That's true.
It also touches on like the multiverse of it all at a much like simpler level. Like it focuses more on time traveling than actual like universe hopping. So I think that's like the strengths that they should play to.
Well, they did multiverse travel in a really weird. Like I liked how they did it in the first Loki show because there wasn't a multiverse in the first Loki show because of what they were doing. Like they were stopping parallel dimensions from forming.
Exactly.
Which I thought was a new unique take on it, right? Like they were just like they're pruning it and they stopped and then created the multiverse, which like how that story goes, like they told it in a way that made sense. And so it's not just like some weird there's parallel dimensions now. It was like, oh no, like this is what's happening and this makes sense.
I agree with that, Fred. I think that maybe this doesn't have to be the final. This is maybe my final thought right now, but if anybody else has anything they want to add, please feel free to. But I think that there's an impulse to hear that they want to make more shows like Loki and fewer shows like Daredevil. I think they're right? Because like I'm so tired of the multiverse. Like at this point, there is enough reporting out there that we can pretty confidently say that we are within the next couple of years going to get a new T'Challa, a new Robert Downey, or a new
Robert Downey Jr.,
a new Tony Stark, and a new Steve Rogers, and they're all going to be new actors. And that's going to be what the multiverse serves, is the opportunity to recast these characters. And once that is done, it needs to go away for a while. I am so tired of the multiverse. And so hearing that like they're putting their money on Loki and not Daredevil, I think my immediate reaction is to get worried about that. But if what we're
Is
really
to do the
talking about
Knuckles
here,
now.
but if what we're really talking about here is more cohesive storytelling, more television style storytelling, more focus on what makes these characters fun and exciting and not like them doing their boring ass jobs. Like I get that the whole thing that made Marvel Comics a revolution in the beginning was that like Peter Parker had to pay his rent, but that's not fun in a TV show. All right, that's it for this week's Nerd It Here Weekly. Thanks so much for listening. Please remember to tune in for the Nerd Out this week, where we're going to be talking about
Board games.
spooky board games. So make sure you sign up
Yeah.
for the Nerd Out so you get access to that. But before we let you go, we're going to hit you with some things that have stood out to us recently. There are pop culture recommendations. And this week, I want to start with Fred.
Yeah, I just picked up the original Alan Wake. The new one's coming out this month, so I figured I should play the original. Spooky game. I always liked the Alan Wake series. I didn't play the first one. I played Control, and I thought that their take on the supernatural was really interesting and unique. So I wanted to go back and just jump into this series, and so it's been real fun.
Jackson?
Yeah, I found a game called El Paso Everywhere. It's a shoot 'em all game. The gameplay isn't like the most outstanding, but the vibes are pretty immaculate. You play as a guy whose ex-girlfriend is a Dracula that's trying to destroy the world, and you're trying to stop her. And also the soundtrack fucks.
Cool. I'll have to check that out now. Bruno, you got one?
Fall of the House of Usher. Mike Flanagan just back at it with great writing, great cinematography. He does a use of colors that I've been noticing in the episodes that is really great. And yeah, just like horror at its peak.
Excellent. I watch Wednesday, relatedly, because I'm trying to chug through all the Netflix stuff I have to watch before I have to cancel Netflix because it costs $25 now. But yeah, Wednesday, good. Made me watch Adam's Family Values, now streaming on Paramount Plus. Christina Ricci Hive, never die. Never trust Sarah Miller. This has been Nerd Here Weekly. Thanks so much for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the show. Thank you to Bruno for helping us produce and all you make this show happen. Thank you to Wiki Rascals for our logo and artwork. We promise that one day Deepak Chitnis will return to you, but until then, don't forget to
From
tune
the
in
war.
next week to hear.
For real though, you sounded just like that sound effect I just sent.